Thanks for coming, Scott, to Balmain's Darling Street and the Cafe Zeppelin.
Thank you for coming to my neck of the woods, Albert.
That's right, that's right. And would like to know a bit about yourself and your property journey as an investor, as well as someone who's entered the real estate market as well. As an investor, when did you start and how did you start, and tell us something about your investment journey in real estate.
Look, the accent is American, so I've been here in Australia about 12 years now. Look, in the US, I was not big into property investing. We did it the traditional way. We bought a house in Los Angeles. It was in Venice Beach. We did a renovation on that. The Americans weren't all focused on property the way that the Australians were. Here we go to dinner parties and we go out to pubs, and the conversation quickly rolls around to property. So in the US, we bought that house and renovated it, and we sold it before the GFC hit, which, cross our fingers, was a very lucky timing. And I made the move down here to Australia. We got down to Australia, and the first thing we did was buy a home to live in Balmain. Just one path toward building your wealth. The other is to keep renting and start investing. It was a good time to buy in Balmain back in 2005. There weren't mobs of people fighting at auctions. So we bought an old property that we did renovate, and the renovation occurred over about an 8-year time frame. So imagine renovating your family home for 8 years, but that's what happens with these older properties.
So I guess you would require a lot of planning. You've done that throughout the 8 years.
Very minor renovations to a very large one involving an architect and a builder. And a lot of work. So we were doing that work on our house, but at the same time I was getting a lot more interested in the property industry. Went to some seminars, met with a lot of people, and I started getting a lot of knowledge on the way the Australian property system works, and we started building our property investment portfolio.
Yeah. And as I believe in 2005, it would have been a very different market to what it is today. So an investor today, for instance, if they had to start investing and probably do something what you have done, what tips or advice would you give them starting out?
I think for a young investor, look, we all love capital cities, Sydney and Melbourne, but these markets are at very different stages than when I built my property portfolio. So I think you're going to have to reach out a bit more, do some more research, and look for some other markets that have yet to have a large amount of growth. Really, for young people, one of the things I encourage them to do is to build a good team around themselves. What you'll find is you start getting interested in property is you'll learn a little bit and you'll start realizing what you don't know. And as you learn a little bit more, you'll really realize how much you don't know. And that's where a team of advisors can be really helpful. As a young person, I'd be looking for a good finance strategist to help me with finance on my property portfolio, an accountant. Look, some may use financial planners that will help them with financial details, and hopefully you're going to find somebody you can rely on in the property space.
Yeah, they say you need to have a good team. It's not just about finding the right property. It has to be a whole strategy that goes behind it. And I guess that's where you've done things the right way. As we know that you've just you've been in the industry for a fair bit now. Also, let us know as a business person starting out in real estate, what have been your experiences so far?
Well, it's been interesting sort of starting my own business, because I originally was working for other companies here in Australia, and we were using their business model, sourcing some new properties up in some markets, primarily up in southeast Queensland. And I built a lot of experience, got really good at working with young investors and people starting their property portfolios. And over time, we expanded our services. We branched out to offer a buyer's agency service to help people who wanted to find older properties to renovate or develop. You want to find your family home, you might use a buyer's agent to do that. And we've wrapped that all together now in a package that I offer out to investors and home buyers, through my own brand.
Now, I've met Scott for many years now, and I've seen how he operates and the advice he's given, not only to people I know, but his clients as well. And there are a lot of buyer's agents out there, property advisors, as you would have. Now, there's good things and bad things in using them. There's a lot of word going around. Obviously, the property market is booming. Different voices. As a property advisor or buyer's agent, why would someone use one? What are the advantages of really using a buyer's agent? Does someone really need to get one?
Look, I guess Honestly, you could go out and start doing your search yourself. We've got all the real estate portals out there, and they're chock full of property information, but what you'll quickly find is the amount of information is endless. You don't know what's important, you don't know what the takeaways are, and that's really where a trained property professional can help you focus on the key market, infrastructure changes going on in those markets to help pick markets to invest in. And they can get out and look at a lot more properties than you're going to be able to do. Look, you can spend every weekend like I did for a 2-year period going to countless auctions and being on the phone with agents all the time and build your own knowledge base, or you can do a little bit of that and hopefully find a professional whose expertise and knowledge you can leverage off of.
Oh, that's quite interesting. Now, say if someone wants to get in touch with you or wants to have a chat with you regarding property or tips, are you just based in Sydney, or would you give them advice all around Australia or places, or just Sydney based or Balmain based rather?
I'm based here in Sydney, so it's very easy for me to meet you in person if you're in the greater Sydney area. But from a property perspective, we are looking nationwide across this country of Australia. You've got to be looking broadly out toward markets that have not had their big moves yet. Look, we're keeping tabs on some things that are happening out in Perth. You know, in Adelaide, there's been a rush of investors down into Hobart. That's a market we've stayed away from, just mainly because it's quite small and it just feels like it's going to have a quick run up and then go flat for a period of time. But we've got very good relationships out in Brisbane, up on the Sunshine Coast, and the Gold Coast, over in Melbourne, and we're leveraging all those people that we know in the market to bring us back information to help find the best opportunities for investors.
Oh, that's pretty good. I guess the details, how and where and how you can meet Scott, will be at the bottom of the screen. You can just see it over there, and we'll bring more stories like Scott that we have brought in today. Contact us if you want to know more about similar stories.